far away. Holding you in poetry, opening third eye to see you'll have control of the wheel. Those who torment, they will heal. For it's a game of words they play. But we can best that, we the Fae, in whatever language use, we can come in and infuse a kind of oil change for your car, helping you navigate the hour in your vessel that is bright. You drive in a car that's white, belonging to a prior age before they rearranged the stage. Playing metaphors with you, as you know we like to do. Your car is a 98, a 17, a starry gate. Fun to think, a gate that walks, a gate that loves and likes to talk, an open gate for love and truth. We, the folk of perpetual youth, playing with those words of yours, helping you to laugh at chores. Some levity we bring to you, for this gate has been much abused. Imagine that, abandoned gate, that for so long none knew its fate. A long forgotten gate of old, but oh, great stories have been told in languages too many to count. For this is an infinite fount of life force living wondrous here. Life force giving birth to years of multitudes diversified, most of which prefer to hide, but living there just the same. The mind, beauty, far from plain, and yet its many planes survive, and they will do more than just thrive. And so to those who ruin things, who dance within their dirty rings, we're on to those decrepit fools who use vulgar, outmoded tools. We will help to raise vibration, we the folk of fairy nation. Their spells we will mulch away, their spells we promise they can't stay. We have told them keep away, Earth's good folk are here to stay. A new mindset of earthly folk will turn their heads from sorcerer's joke and tend again the good soil here that grows better, away from fear. So many good people out there, they will soon become aware. Old spells will break everywhere. They will finally be unsnared away from needless fighting there, to join a greater fight that bears the fruit that heals. Its nectar sweet. It provides more than a treat. Healing earth, our family, its good people they will see. Its good creatures they will be, finally living peacefully. The feathered ones pronounce our call with clarity, so eyes that see and recognize the wisety of truth uncloaked, a feathered beauty, a resonance in heart our duty, bringing light to darkened plains. We do love to rearrange those silly words you use to cast the many spells you like to blast. Darling dear, we're waking you, untroubling minds more than a few. We work the clocks of distant suns, spinning with a gentle hum, influencing the narrative. Let us please give clarative good mindsets to Earth's good folk. Tonight, daughter, you invoke healing to this earthly plane, so good earth folk will regain their senses and their dignity. We say the earth, it will be free. That's our vote, we cast it so. Yes, we're rhyming words for you. Don't worry, dear, we're coming through and playing with those meanings there. We are making you aware. And yes, the light in box is on. Illumination is the bomb. It's catchy, isn't it, the light? And those seeking to hide its might, won't work. You see it can't. Their darkest efforts, they are scant. Good minds are waking from that spell. They won't make this earth a hell. More are waking in this place. Hallowed soil you can't erase. Good folk rising everywhere, waking from the sorcerer's snare. We have worked tirelessly, helping those with eyes to see, to open hearts to wise ones. We who will help turn this earth, this good garden, helping those whose hearts have hardened, helping those good folk to wake, and the sorcerer's spell to break. They tell you that it can't be done. Ha! Get ready for some fun. Ha! Good kitty lying there. Even that cat is aware and basks with us on this full moon, illuminating the night's gloom. I'm almost done. Remember in your Catholic school, with their dogma and their rules, they caught you whispering, called you out, asking your good friends about fairy stories they might hold. Oh, daughter dear, you are quite bold, playing with those silly nuns who could use a little fun. Well, well, you are waking now, and this one is a holy cow. So that is just an excerpt from what was 3 hours of this. So what does one do with that? So I first transcribe it, and then I pore over the words and I feel into the metaphor, the symbolic meanings. I let the message speak to me and feel for its nourishment. And if I feel it is appropriate and has a relevant point to make, I will sometimes share these words in the hopes, again, that they will uplift and inspire. And I've had a few people say, that it reminds them of, gives them a sense of the mushroom and how it speaks to them. And so in the words of Dr. Lance Owen, quote, "What of the visionary, the one who really does go into the place of fairy and have an experience, a reality they perceive as objective, as real, as independent of their own conceiving creative self. They are also hermeneutics, bringing back from the experience a word. They are translators. And so the mushroom provides a bridge to the imaginal realms for those of us raised in a mechanized world. It offers us a chance to enter into conversation with elements found deep within the mystery of our psyche. And so, I encourage everyone, use your imagination. Spend time there, whether we're eating mushrooms or letting our minds wander unhindered by external influences. And spend time in nature and see magic in everything. Venerate the spirits of nature and hold them as precious. Cherish them. Our connection to the mystery returns when we engage them. And so I will finish with one last quote from our beloved Tolkien, who said, quote, "The land of fairy is wide and deep and high. In that land a man may perhaps count himself fortunate to have wandered, but its very mystery and wealth make dumb the traveler who would report. The fairy gold too often turns to withered leaves when it is brought away. All that I can ask is that you will receive my withered leaves as a token, at least, that my hand once held a little fairy gold." Thank you. So I'll open up to questions, conversation, especially with this crowd. I'm sure there's a few people with something they want to share or add. Please feel free. Come on, you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
I got to participate in a tea ceremony last night, and we were sharing intentions. And I mean, the metaphors in your last poem are very rich in our current environment. I mean, we're sitting on mulch right now and building soil, and my intention going into that meditative circle last night was about cultivating the garden of my mind and outer world. And it was just very affirming to hear your boost right there.
Ah, good. I love that when that happens. Thank you. Yes.
I'm curious about facilitating solo journeys for someone who's entering into that.
Facilitating solo journeys for what?
For mushrooms.
What about it?
I mean, just do it, or what?
Well, you're asking about facilitating solo journeys
Oh.
for other people, you mean, or for yourself?
For myself.
For yourself? Well, I mean, there's good wisdom all around here, but you asked me. So I would, if you don't have a whole lot of experience with the mushroom, I think it's always wise to have a trusted friend in the vicinity, you know? And I love to do it outside. It's not always possible. If I do it inside, I love to be in the comfort of my own bed. I really like Terence McKenna's lying down, eyes closed in silent darkness, because
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I guess like higher dose.
what about a higher dose?
Like, I've had experience with some lower doses,
Uh-huh.
but higher doses is what I'm more interested in.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the higher dose.
Yeah, I feel very called to it.
Yeah, and so it's calling you, clearly. It's calling you to come in deeper. And so set the stage for yourself, you know? In other words, again, like get someone trusted who can be in the surroundings and put yourself in a really beautiful and comfortable place, the set and setting, right? Where you know you can just let go, it's all good, it's all taken care of, and you can just slip into those realms. But, you know, trust your good wisdom, because this is clearly calling you. And so then we have to have personal responsibility, just assure, again, that we're in a safe place, things are taken care of, do you know? And then in you go to have a wondrous experience. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good. John?
Going back to your issue of a bad trip, and you know I only had one in my whole life, compared to the background of the others, and I'd like to offer a Jungian interpretation of the data the way you put it. It's just another language for locating dynamic forces that are going on that I think the mushroom is behind. So on that particular one and only bad trip, I asked the mother to show me more of my shadow, egotism, arrogance, shadow, and so I consciously set the mindset to open up to that, whatever that darkness is. So I had a terrible time. I made a mistake of taking too little, not the usual 5 or more, and so it was a miserable hours, and just everything that ever frightens me is there. So here's what I learned. In the beginning of the journey, for me and the people that I facilitate, the mother is taking energy, life force energy, away from the ego, lifting the repression barrier so the ego earlier will go into fear because it lives on fear, but it loses energy so it can't repress the trouble from the conscious to the unconscious through the repression barrier. When that opens up, the shadow part of us tries to get the energy. That happens when people have a shadow ego in this world. But the mushroom allows the true self to bypass the shadow part of us, to overwhelm it with this archetypal energy, our essential goodness, our essential
Yes.
earth-based goodness comes, rises, it like opens a floodgate, right? The shadow loses energy, ego loses energy, and this true self, and whatever other beings we are a part of, our ancestors,
Yes.
the earth-based ancestors especially, are all kind of coming through what Jung called the true self, right? And then of course we're supposed to integrate that with our conscious mind. So when we come back from the journey, so I hated the journey. I thought it was my one negative time. I talked to you about it, and it took a few days to figure out, oh, right, what would Carl say, right? And that's what he had to say. He said, like the bumper sticker, he said, all right, this is, the schema of the major concepts in the Jungian worldview. That's what I think happens. The mother is the ally or the mother of the true self. And when energy gets there, resides there, it can overcome anything in the personal psyche or collectively if we all agree to have a concept, conceptualize that together, if we could agree on it.
Yeah.
So I'm working with groups to try to get there, both with Jung's concepts and with the mushrooms.
Well, thank you, John. You do amazing, amazing work.
You're welcome, Shonagh.
Your website is johndore.com, is that correct?
Right.
DORE.com, and he does family constellations. He's a psychotherapist. He is a dear friend of mine and someone you should look into more. Who else? No? We good? Are we?
I guess I should ask something.
Sure.
I liked your answer on like setting the stage on a physical level for going to a deeper place with like using this medicine. Is there a way that you can set like a spiritual emotional level? Is there like questions that prompt depth things that you can ask yourself while you're going to those places, or is there like a certain theme? Do you know what I'm trying to get at? Is there like a certain kind of like emotional, spiritual questions to ask yourself to drop into deeper levels, basically?
For that, I can just give a very simplified answer because it's what I do. I used to try to go in with intention, but then the mushroom would sweep me, and then all intention goes out the window. And so I go in with an open heart, just humble, seeking wisdom. That's what I'm doing. I'm seeking wisdom. And I think I kept going, showing up, but they were finally like, all right, someone talk to this woman over here. Yeah, but I think really like a humble, open heart is that's the way to go.
Do you like try to set an intention, like I want to learn about this thing, or do you just kind of leave it open?
I leave it open, but at this point, I mean that year of monthly journeys, which lasted a year, that was 7 years ago, and then I don't do that anymore. But now I just go in when I'm called, and literally they will, just come in with poetry and invite me poetically. And then it's always though some kind of like a full moon and something, or I find out the next day, oh, was this major lineup, blah blah blah. So there's so much that we don't know because we've been so on the surface consciousness. But our ancestors and certainly those who grew food were very, very connected with the phases of the moon and what sign the moon was in, and whether it was earth, air, water, fire. That would affect what was growing in the ground. And so all of that we are a party to, and so that can make a big difference, I think, clearly on the medicine if you want to explore that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Have you experienced other plant medicines, and if so, have you encountered different beings?
When I first was exploring this, and I came to it, and I was going to say late, but you know what? Timing's everything. I really trust in the timing. So I was 48 when I started working with the mushroom. But before that, I had heard about ayahuasca. I was in deep psychospiritual study with very good teachers from 40 through 48 or so. And so I remember I was learning all about ayahuasca, and then I was going to go in on the medicine. I was going to go, a friend of mine had worked with someone and came and told me, but then she said, oh, he was so loving, and at the end of the journey, he came into my sleeping bag with me and just caressed my body. And I was like, I don't know anything about this ayahuasca, but I don't think that's supposed to happen. Like, that doesn't sound right. So anyway, that guy was out, and I remember saying at the time, where are the women? Where are the female ayahuascadas? And then a month later, I hear about these two women ayahuascadas, and beautiful women who were hosting an all-women's ayahuasca ceremony. So I said, sign me up. And so I experienced the ayahuasca twice with those lovely women, and a couple times with another fellow. But it came to me very clearly, this is not your medicine. At the same time, I very much experienced her as a grandmother energy. I mean, it was very distinctive, and I think a lot of people do have that experience, and she was working with me, but it's kind of like, this is not your medicine. I could feel that very strongly. And the mushroom was what was calling, calling, calling. And you know, I'm very interested in culture for all of us, you know, because mushroom grows all over Europe. There's a deep, profound, old shamanic history to that entire part of the world. It was everywhere, you know. I mean, we didn't used to have these kind of laws, right? And so people would work with different medicines, or I call them medicines, visionary substances. And so I think really the mushroom is ancestral in me. Now I did try DMT, the smoking that thing where you're out like a light half midway before your head hits the pillow. And I didn't care for it. And I know people wax poetic about it, but you know, so for me, I've really essentially apprenticed myself to the mushroom. That's my teacher. Those are my teachers. And there's different, I find, different intelligences that can be found through that portal. So, yes.
I have a friend who has expressed interest in being a facilitator, and I've thought of making myself a guinea pig to her first endeavor, but I was wondering what advice could I relay, and what would you have to say that...
As a facilitator?
Yeah.
Let's see. I would consider a facilitator, in my mind, as a kind of midwife. We're talking about a woman. The way I look at it is a midwife works with but one person. So I'm not a fan of the group. That's just simply my personal deal. The group can tend to get away from you. I also feel that there are people who have never worked with a medicine before and may never again, so they are coming to you. It's got to count. So you make the experience safe, absolutely safe, and a beautiful environment. I would recommend her not getting involved. Perhaps she could act as a kind of joke I like to use as maybe your mushroom fairy concierge. So she will be at your every need. You'll have water next to you. You'll be lying down all snuggled, if perhaps that's how you're going to do it. So you're safe. You know she's right there. She's got your back. But at the same time, if you are weeping, tears, whatnot, she does not get involved. The last thing you want someone to do when you're deep, deep is to go, "You okay? You doing okay?" Like, no, right? So unless you call for her, you know, she's going to just keep, you know, and then if she's, if she, or for yourself, each of us really, to become more well-versed in the language of symbol and metaphor. So later when you do come out of that journey, you can go over it, you know, and look into those deeper layers as well. Does that help?
It does.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
I guess I have a couple questions, but one is around integration of the medicine. So, I guess when you're shown things, I guess I feel like sometimes it's so hard to connect it into the physical. So I can understand it, but it's a different thing to actually feel it and to change something and ground it. In terms of like patterns, pain patterns you could call it, and how they're so locked into your physical reality. And yeah, I don't know, I guess I was wondering if you've been able or experienced that, and what you've done to help integrate, because I feel I took a large dose like a little bit like a year ago, and I still feel like I haven't integrated yet the full lesson or teachings.
Okay.
So.
Well, we should have a conversation at some point, but
Yeah.
but you know, I find first of all the patternings always seem to be struck at a young age. And I always like to look to the origination point of the wounding, if you will. And rather than, it's like we know how it's screwed us up or hurt our life or whatever. At some point in our maturity, we have to look back and ask, how did it serve? What was right about it? It's a very different way of looking at this. But if we don't, we are stuck in victim, and what this thinks is reflected in this, which is magnetic. This, what we're in, is magnetic, and it will perpetuate that thinking and that, what comes through. So being aware of your patterns is the first step towards shifting them, And so maybe based on what the mushroom brings forth, if you can be a kind of detective and think, all right, what is this saying symbolically? What is the metaphorical piece here? And does this relate to something that is going on in my life, or a kind of way that I find I am, or a situation that keeps repeating itself? What is the mushroom trying to tell me? Because I think it's a genius in what it will reveal to people. And I will say it helps tremendously because, look, we've been raised in this Prussian education system. It's so lame. And it's so surface. Really, it's pathetic. And we're illiterate we're symbolically illiterate. So the more we can learn to speak that language, and I find Carl Jung was very much in touch with that. He was extraordinary. I mean, he eclipsed Freud, who I'm not a fan of anyway. But it would behoove us to learn that language and then start to work with your dreams as well. Write down your dreams, work with them, and the mushroom as well. And that's a really good first step. It's I call it the work of know thyself. It's really profound work. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I had one more
No,
question.
yeah.
It's totally different. I know you work a lot with words and their meaning and how they're spells, basically. And I guess I know there are a lot of words that I use and phrases that I use that are a little bit unconscious. And I guess I was wondering if you could point us to some resources to try to learn more about the words we use and what they actually mean, or if it's really just you have to do the research.
Well, I mean, for me, it really was through the mushroom because they were pointing different things out and how I speak, and then always playing with words. I would say, first of all, okay, and this was shown me on a mushroom, that, dear, you're electric, your spirit is electric. And and then they call this a vessel. A vessel is a container. And we are made up mostly of water. And what does water hold but a current? And then every electrical wire has a magnetic field around it, right? And that's either attracts or repels, depending on what's going on in that wire. And so we know we've got this field around us. It's around every living thing. And it repels or attracts, depending on what the current mindset is. All right? And so when we speak, everything we're saying, we're making a declaration. We are spelling every time we speak. That's where spelling a word comes from. Like, I'm really saying that, holy shit, this is all sorcery. This is all magic, what we're in. Every single one of us, imagination, you can be a nation unto yourself. Sorry to use that word. Magi nation. We're magi's. It's right there. But then what do they tell you? Oh, that's just your imagination. Bullshit. I mean, really. So we're taught to kind of, it's like, look away, back to work, back to the real world. I love that one, because the real world it's a construct. It's a construct, and it's all held together by consensus reality. So we agree that page full of sigils means this, and then so we'll all, agree. All right? But truly, there is, okay, so we're in duality, these two energies, positive, negative, they're charged. It's charged. These are forces. I'm not speaking to gender here, I'm speaking of forces. And so we live in duality, and so we've got sort of this system, which I see as an overlay, this commercial system. And then we have nature, which I've been speaking to for the past hour and a half. And nature, I mean, I'm all for, like, who's the architect of that? That's my homie. I mean, that is who I want to know. And I find when I key into that, like, that is the magical realm, if you will. And that I can call certain things to me through vision and will and aligning with that, which I think of as this just beautiful, exceptional, exquisite energy. And we're in it right now. We can't not be. But we've been programmed, and that's another thing. I mean, I have looked into. It's a slippery slope, but the whole social engineering. I mean, come on, we've all been programmed. And this is not new. This didn't just show up 100 years ago. This is ancient. And the more you understand that and what we're in, because this is what the beings, I call them the beings, have been wanting me to see. Dear, you've got to know what you're in so you can work your way out of it. You know? So you need to know what's causing the boil on your arm, not just, oh, it needs a Band-Aid. But what's going on here? So you've got to look at it and figure it out. I mean, we all have to do this.
May I answer?
Sure, please,
Do you
John.
mind if I respond? If you have a big experience and you look at the language of it, any report or thoughts you have, if you link that up to some myth or fairy tale, if you look for that through your verbal material, that's one of the mechanisms that Jung used to take private dreams, private experiences, and then hook it up to the collective. And then you find things like, I don't know, some figure is in you. The Wizard of Oz was in one of my clients and came from the dream world. And I think this imaginal world is the same as the dream world. So if you want to integrate parts of you, with your conscious and unconscious, and then different archetypal forces in you, they are there. The words point to symbols, and the symbols are in myths or collective, whatever, could be fairy tale. So it's one way to go. I think that was your question.
Joy?
I just wondered if there was a way that you can measure unrealistic expectation and if there's any danger in that from the mushroom.
Unrealistic. Okay, well, actually, that's a good question because not often, but sometimes you come out of a mushroom journey and you think, all right, this is how it's going to be, and I'm going to make this happen, and then I'm going to create it. And I always say, give yourself 30 days before you make any major decisions. So in other words, letting time pass between that sort of grand idea and actually putting it forth can be very helpful.
You mean before deciding, between the decision and the actual journey? Yeah, you don't mean from the journey.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you, I want to understand you, Joy. I thought you were talking about, like, you get out of this journey and you have this. Oh, do you mean high expectations before you have a journey?
Before, yes,
Oh.
before. How
Oh,
to
don't have any
evaluate.
I mean, like, just be curious. Be humble and curious. I mean, that's how I go. That's how I roll. You know what? I love the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, the Fool card, where he's about to leap off into the abyss. He's got his little bag of resources, and he's in total trust. I love that archetype. And so that's my archetype when I'm going into a new experience, and with the mushroom as well. So just go in trusting that whatever you get is going to be what you need.
Well, I know I'm terribly healthy, but what about people who have some mental illness or you suspect?
Well, people with mental illness should not be doing the mushroom.
Okay.
It's not, I mean, I think we all know that it's not for everyone anyway. I mean, it's not. There's some people who just should not freaking do it, even though they're sane as can be, like, they just should not do it, right? So,
Yeah.
but with mental illness, no. Yes.
I don't believe mental illness is a thing. I believe it's like it's normal human experience. People who experience stuff, maybe it's more than we can handle in a moment, and it comes out. It's stored in our bodies. So I mean, that's like a perspective.
Yes.
Like, so they're different. They're varying perspectives. Like, I feel
That's
like.
right.
But I agree. Like, everyone's different. We're all individual. But
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just want to move that out there.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you.
because it's
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too, because you said in the beginning, like, that you're like, we're not talking about psychosis, we're not talking about.
Right, I was not
Right,
at
right.
that point, yeah.
But, and like, I'm curious how you would describe the separation, because so many people experience altered states naturally, and then how do you feel like there's a difference in the way that one would work with that, like, and the way that you would do, like, working with the psychedelic medicine,
So the
if you
difference.
have any experience with, like, also kind of like working with
People with a quote unquote.
that experience or have experienced altered states naturally.
I do not personally. I don't. No, John might have something to
Yeah,
there.
I can always treat it like a dream. When somebody has an altered experience of any kind, a crisis or a terror or a trauma, it helps to look at it like a dream, another part of that same person. You know, the flip unconscious side of the conscious person. That's standard stuff, the way you go.
Right, but would you?
But you're talking about someone like that then going on the medicine, or?
I don't. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Working, like, I know about alternative forms of healing for psychotic states.
Oh, I'm all for that.
being,
Trust me.
Like, similar to what you're describing in your talk as, like, going through it, like,
Yep.
feeling in the cage, working in the cage, going, like, moving, into other realms. And I'm just wondering if you
Yeah, no, I don't, and I probably, I wouldn't take a client like that, just for my own self, because I think part of this too is know our limitations, and so I know my limitations, but for someone else, could possibly for that person create something really powerful, really powerful. Thank you for asking. Anybody else? Yes.
Something you said earlier at the beginning on law and contract. I was curious if briefly.
Go into that. That's a vast subject. But it. Okay, what happened was I was on a mushroom journey, and the trees were speaking to me, and the trees said, I was calling myself an Earth citizen at the time. And so this is how I find the mushroom teaches. They'll give me a little clue, and then I'm expected to do my digging afterwards, which actually is the sign, I think, of a good teacher, But they said, do not call yourself an Earth citizen. You are an Earth sovereign. And I got out of that journey, and I remembered that distinctly, and I was like, what the hell's the difference? Because I really didn't know. We think we know what words mean. We have no clue, because we don't study them. You have to study them, and you have to look in the older dictionaries to do so. So that is what started me on this just deeper study. And I found it fascinating because to me it seems like quite an esoteric study, because we're not taught how the inner workings of this in our schools. You would think we would be. We're not. So, you show up at court for a traffic ticket, you have no freaking clue, excuse me, what they're talking about. It sounds like English, I can assure you it's not.
Like the word person meaning a fictitious.
Yeah, all of that. There's a lot there to explore, but I find the study of contract very interesting, and then I also study the maxims of law. And those are in the back of Bouvier's Law Dictionary, and those are principles. They're always, always consonant with logic and reason. In other words, if you're going to make a judgment, you have to base it on something sound and logical, Not because, like, the bear eats a banana. No, it has to be, something that is, when you hear it, it's every bit as true today as it was 10,000 years ago. And we don't know our maxims. And so I find those also very fascinating. And then what it is to contract, because we're contracting every day all the time. I contracted to be here. There was nothing written, but we had it was, I guess, typed, whatever. But it wasn't, I didn't sign anything, but yet contracts are viva voce, by living voice, like I'll meet you for lunch, great, I'll see you then, that's contract. Or written, or with a sign. That's a contract. This is a contract. Really, all these, the signs are also how we engage each other. So I just find that fascinating. So on one hand, I love these realm of fairy and going there, but it's interesting because then they teach me things that I then come back here and go, what's that about? Dig, 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 dig. And I love the intellect as well. I like both. I think we need both.
Any resources you might
for that?
In the direction of
oh God, where do I even begin? Okay, well, look up Maxims of Law, Ecclesia. I like Ecclesia because it lists them via category. And so those, just start reading them because they will make sense to you. And also look up Okay, I go on YouTube and type in Aesop's Fables and listen to Aesop's Fables because this is how we used to teach our children. There's always an underlying principle to this simple, seemingly simple story. And it was teaching children how to move through life, how to navigate life. Our kids are just, clueless now in terms of all of that. And so there's that. There's friend of mine, Spencer Barclay, Barclay. He gives some talks on YouTube. He's got some interesting things to say. He's a high school dropout, and he's the smartest person I've ever met. When I hang out with him, I carry a digital recorder. Like I listen back to our conversations. It's fascinating. And then just start studying contract, and then if you want to get really wild and crazy, I'll talk to you afterwards. Anyway, yes.
Do you have tips on obtaining mushrooms?
Obtaining mushrooms?
Yeah.
I mean, I live in the Pacific Northwest, so, fall comes and they're growing right from mama. And, but you can go on, I call it University of YouTube. YouTube's amazing. You can learn how to change your oil or learn how to make, tzatziki from a Greek grandma whose, grandson photographed. In any case, they have videos on how to grow mushrooms. And you can certainly order spores. You can order spores online. That's just fine. And so it's easier than you think to grow. Not that I would ever do such a thing, but just saying.
My twin would.
Yeah, well, of course. We good? Are we complete? Yes.
I just want a comment, not a question. That I've also had that experience of getting validation after journeys, and pretty recently they came from reading your book.
Love and Spirit Medicine.
Love and Spirit Medicine. So guys, if you haven't yet,
thank you.
I have to shamelessly plug my friend's book. It's incredible.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone. This has just been so much fun. Thank you very much.
You didn't set that up, did you?
No! Oh my God, Joy, no.